Previously on Enterprising Engines, Season 1. The Fat Controller announces a new extension project for the Little Western for a special purpose, but the prospect of a new lift bridge only ends in a dreadful omen of what is to come. Whether this was an accident or not is yet to be determined.
Daisy, the diesel railcar, gets advice from a private owner engine named Lady, who has been on Sodor before. She ignores this advice and causes an accident on the turntable, and comes to the conclusion that she may have to turn the swagger down a notch.
Splatter and Dodge complete their trial on the island of Sodor. They both cause confusion and delay and are sent to a private owner, where they are reunited with their old boss.
Stepney, saddened by the realization that he is coming and going from Sodor again, makes a grand entrance that no one expected, and because of this, manages to stay a little longer.
Edward the Blue Engine improvises with an old harpoon cannon to reel in some stranded lifeboats, and is called an enterprising engine by a harbor patrolman. Toby the Tram Engine decides to see how well Bertram is getting on with the narrow-gauge engines at the mines and factories, only to find that everyone is fed up with the old warrior's unrelenting enthusiasm. However, when Donald backs up into a historical landmark that nearly crushes a stranded Toby, the old warrior proves his bravery, as well as his worth.
Derek is at the works, and worries that he will never be able to redeem himself, and faces the possibility of being sent away. Upon a mechanic's encouragement, he rescues a familiar spam can before conquering a big hill and making the heavy delivery safely, all without overheating. Duck longs to go on a seafaring adventure, but gets more than he bargains for when he accidentally sinks Goliath, the menacing barge.
Mavis longs to travel outside the confines of Farquhar Quarry, but when she is fed up with Toby's advice, she inadvertently provokes the trucks and gets pushed into a rock slide.
The small controller enlists Mike to take a search party to find a farmer's lost sheep at night. Mike does so, but the headlamp the men have selected for the task has seen better days and hardly produces any light at all. Without the light of the lamp, Mike collides into Frank's goods train, and after an argument, the lost sheep climbs high onto the wreckage and reveals itself at last.
Ari and Bert are reminded of a joint ownership contract with the Northwestern Railway and the ironworking facilities on Sodor. Although the two can be hard to work with, even with each other, the Fat Controller marvels at their efficiency and builds a new transfer table with them in mind. Lo and behold, down on his luck, Bert messes up the transfer table.
Henry, determined to prove he can pull the flying kipper, accidentally crashes the end of the train through a siding, but then improvises to make up for it.
After Donald and Frank have an accident, Duck and Oliver have to rise to the occasion on their branch line.
The Little Western project continues well into the winter, and the Fat Controller summons Wilbert to help out Arthur. The two become firm friends, but Arthur gets caught up in who to trust and who to please when he is late for a delivery running a secret errand to Bluebell Manor for his friend Paul the mechanic. The transaction is made and the parts arrive at the doorstep of the mysterious fencer, Mr. Gregory Larson. After Arthur gets ousted for being late and gets swept up in the blinding snow, he questions whether his ability to please everyone is even possible, and if this is preventing him from seeing a bigger picture.
Later on, the foreman of the project neglects to lock a warehouse door, and a sinister dealing takes place. Two of the men, accompanied by Ari and Bert, work for a mysterious employer who is taking arms from another sinister employer, who appears to be running Sodor logging.
Then, it is revealed that Arthur's special delivery to Bluebell Manor is carrying special parts for Paul the mechanic and Mr. Larson to help restore an old flying wing for an inspection.
Back in the yard, Arthur works hard with his friend Murdoch. They speak with Daisy, who has recently blown a fuse, about how a decent shepherd would keep the sheep that wander on the line in order. Impressionable and a little naive, Arthur tries to become the shepherd of the yard, only to collide into some flour trucks and miss the mark. At least he had all the ingredients.
Sir Handel is sent flying down the line by his trucks and crashes into an old warehouse which is holding a fresh stockpile of defused gunpowder from the old days. Upon discovery, the Thin Controller stows them into Duke's favorite shed as the engines and staff ponder on how to properly dispose of them. Later on, Bertram's trucks become a runaway and smash into the stockpile and blow the shed to smithereens. Although this is seen as a double whammy of unfortunate events, on the plus side, that old shed was hideous.
The only remake of the season, Donald and Douglas each have a bad run-in with the same set of buffers in the yard.
Work on the Little Western extension continues, and the foreman tells Duck and his crew that a lightweight engine is needed to help set up the scaffolding onto a bridge connecting the valley. Help arrives in the form of Scruff the Scruncher, but Oliver has his doubts. The little engine works wonders, but there is a misunderstanding later on that leads to trouble. Scruff accidentally pushes Mavis off the bridge. After Oliver comes to the rescue, he tells a discouraged Scruff that this one mistake does not undermine his hard work and ability.
Wilbert the Forest Engine is dispatched to work at the mysterious and rambunctious Sodor Logging Company. This time, Wilbert has to deal with a ruthless foreman that he cannot seem to please, and is determined to find some way to impress him. After making friends with the deforestation machine, Kurt the Jungle Cutter, Wilbert accidentally crashes into a tree that the lumberjacks could not cut down on their own, and Wilbert wins the praise of Carlo Debris.
After Hank has a dreadful accident, the workload has to be reallocated. Dart and Den are sent to help out at High Peak Transfer Yards, an area plateau that is seeking to restore a battered Summit Hotel on the Mountain Railway. Although Den is always cautious, you can never be too weary for fate itself. But even when calamity ensues, the two Diesels don't take the misfortune to heart.
Den and Dart don't want to let on how cold they are in the freezing weather, even if it means teasing James. Dart ends up being the brunt of his own joke when he breaks down on a bridge and has to be rescued by James. James laughs as he thaws out, but Dart does not find being cold funny anymore.
The Gunpowder Saga continues, as the Thin Controller enlists his engines and university buddies to make sure the gunpowder is sought out and disposed of. Duncan, enthused by the prospect, is allowed to lead the investigation party. After another stockpile is discovered, Duncan accidentally lights up some old cannons that were left behind. The cannons fire all around and nearly blow Freddy and Sir Handel to smithereens, high up at Ember Gorge. The Thin Controller is exhausted by the ordeal, and the dreadful Gunpowder Saga is left alone for the time being.
Sidney, a forgetful diesel with some short-term memory issues, proves his worth when his absent-mindedness saves Douglas from a head-on collision with Oliver.
Greg and Lars, named after their owner, Gregory Larson, are two lorries that live near the Skarloey line. It is believed that they will never amount to anything. After Greg breaks down, Lars demolishes a water tower, and Greg backs through a bridge support, they apply themselves and save Sir Handel from a disaster, only to cause Freddy to have an accident seconds later. So, yeah, they were close.
Stanley, disillusioned by the grim foreboding of a fiery fate presented by Arian Burt, is even more discouraged by a dark conspiracy theory made by Diesel. Things change for the better, however, when Edward is able to describe the year's events in a new, hopeful light, and that there are friends in high places too. The past is their interpretation, the future is their aspiration, and their present is just a day waiting to be seized. These are the tales of the enterprising engines, and their exploits will never cease to be.